The thing about Tommy Wiseau's laugh is that it's weirdly infectious.
It actually is a lot of fun to do because the thing is that he is consciously making the choice to say the word ha on every single one to convey to you that he is in fact laughing.
He's mirthful.
Yeah, he's an American guy who laughs in English.
He loves football.
Normal American English speaking guy.
He's from New Orleans.
That's right.
Yes.
That's just how we say it down there.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast. I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the of all possible Brians.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
In case you couldn't guess from our disconcerting introduction, we are talking about a classic of the bad movie genre this week. Every week we do case studies in the pop culture of a dying empire, and this is The Room, a 2003 magnum opus by Tommy Wiseau, the man who laughs like that.
Yes, and it is, of course, the Oscars just happened this past Sunday. We are recording it before they come out, so we don't know who the winners are. But it should be The Room again. I think we should just...
Again, because they won before.
Yes. Consistently every year, they should just have a special Oscar category for this film.
Yeah, here's the thing. I have not really watched the Oscars on purpose in 15 years.
Everything you know about the Oscars, you have learned unwillingly. It has been thrust
I just
upon
don't
you.
give a shit. I did watch the first post-COVID Oscars because I was fascinated by what was going on.
That was fascinating. I think that was the only time I intentionally watched the Oscars, just be like, what is going on?
It was a small crowd. It was outdoors.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's right.
That's when... Was it Nomadland? No. Oh God,
I think that's
can't
right.
ever say the name.
It would have been
Nomadland
because Nomadland was the first movie that I saw in a movie theater after the acute period of the pandemic.
Okay.
Right.
When we got to the obtuse period.
I fucking hated it. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was really boring. I thought that movie was just dull.
I actually never got around to seeing it.
But I'll tell you what movie I don't think is dull.
Yes.
The Room.
No.
I would say that this is genuinely one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah? I can't disprove that. Nothing I say here
You can't disprove that it's my favorite
that
movie?
it's your favorite movie.
Oh, okay, great.
That is a verifiable fact that this is your favorite movie.
It's not my favorite. It's up there, though. I mean, because I got into The Room first back in, I want to say 2009.
That's when I got into it too,
After Tommy Wiseau was on
It was
Tim and
after
Eric.
his appearance on Awesome Show.
Yeah.
Because, and we'll get to this in a little bit, there was this period where The Room had been sort of bubbling under as this alt comedy sensation.
If you lived in a big city, you probably knew about
specifically LA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas I was not living in LA at the time. I was living, of course, in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah.
There was
Unlike
no
now,
billboard there
No.
in Grand Rapids.
Josh now is Mr. LA.
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah, famously. I feel like maybe we should just dig into the background of how this thing came to exist in the first place. Specifically, one man, Thomas Pierre Wiseau, whose real name I cannot pronounce.
It is Tomas Wieczorkiewicz.
Yes, he was born on October 3rd, 19...
Apologies to any Poles who listened, because I probably fucked that up too.
And we
but
have
I
a
looked
few
it
of
up.
you. So yeah, polls sound off in the comments.
Yeah, he was born on October 3rd, 1955, which up until recently was not confirmable.
Oh.
Yeah, he always lied about his age. He always said he was younger than he very obviously was. Which means he was in his mid-40s.
But that's actually
when he made The Room.
That's actually insane. He would have been 47, 48 years old.
Yeah.
He does not look that age in this movie.
He doesn't look...
What age would you say he looks,
Yeah.
Josh? That's my question.
I don't
He looks
know.
no age at all.
Exactly.
Like he's the oldest and youngest man there's ever been at the same time.
He just looks like a vampire.
Yes.
I mean, so my first experience, unless I'm getting ahead of things, my first experience with Tommy Wiseau, with The Room, with anything, was that episode of Awesome Show that came out in 2009. And I thought the whole thing was a joke.
Right.
I thought that was Christopher Walken.
Oh.
I was certain that it was Christopher Walken doing one of the most unusual performances I'd ever seen from him, wearing an incredible wig.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, they're really not dropping the curtain on this at all. They are keeping this joke going all the way through about this fake guy who made a fake movie.
Because if you don't know who Tommy Wiseau is, that episode is mostly inscrutable.
Yeah.
But once you do know who he is, it's unbelievably good.
And it's hard not to fall down the rabbit hole of his own mystery, right? Because Tommy Wiseau has built up his entire life as a character, as a fictional guy who came from all these different places, New Orleans, apparently.
In many ways, it's like intentionally a character, but in the most important ways, it's completely unintentional. Right.
Yes.
He wants people to think that he's American, that he is from New Orleans specifically.
Yes.
He has this sort of French looking name, Wiseau, EAU. Like, oh, OK, where is this guy? But then he has this accent that is not even like a typical Polish accent.
No,
it's sort of like when you hear Werner Herzog talk and you're like, I have never heard another Austrian sound like this.
Yes.
Because he's Americanized in some places. But unlike Werner Herzog, Tommy Wiseau is so neurodivergent. Werner Herzog's autistic, but like we're talking,
he's a different kind of
different kinds of divergence. So Wiseau has
many doors of divergence.
Americanized his accent in ways that he thinks an American accent would go.
Yes.
That is not the way any accent goes.
Correct.
No, I mean, the leading theory when I was in college was that he was from Wallonia, which is a very specific region in Belgium.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I
squaring
first saw
it with
it
the sort of French sounding name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's where I first experienced him. When I was in college, I lived with two roommates who were not Josh and Brian coded. They were very online. They loved Tim and Eric. I think the main difference is I don't think either of you ever had, the little cat that watches you masturbate from the ceiling cat. Yeah. They had one on their roof.
Oh,
I don't even know what this is.
Like on the ceiling, they had
like
a picture of it.
Oh no, like an origami thing. So it was like looking down and watching them.
Ceiling cat
3D?
watches you masturbate. This is a classic millennial meme. You don't know this one, Brian?
No, this is from the cheeseburger days.
Yeah. It's a picture. It's a photograph of if I recall correctly, black cat.
Okay.
Who is up in some ceiling tiles and like peering down through
like
one
a
of the
drop
holes.
ceiling type thing. Okay.
And then it's an old school image macro that says ceiling cat is watching you masturbate.
They also introduced me to Shut Up Woman, Get on My Horse. Which was a
look at my horse. My horse is amazing.
Yes. Yep. And that whole sort of realm.
I don't know any of these.
Oh my God! Yay! I finally found an internet thing that I know about.
That's two internet things.
Two at least.
I don't know
two.
either of these things.
But
what the fuck are you talking about?
This was stuff beloved of like very normie online guys who fancied themselves alternative.
Yes.
This is Josh being like, they are nothing like me.
They are nothing like me.
They're not like me. I'm like going full hipster coded on this, being like, well, I was a little different.
I was there when the lemonade was made.
Yeah,
Sweet
Josh is
lemonade.
like, I was into Longcat and Grover House.
I was there. I was there when they had the lemon party. Actually, what we actually know and can verifiably prove about Tommy Wiseau, there's not very much of it, but most of what we assume to be true is based on The Disaster Artist, which was a book written by Greg Sestero, who is the actor who played Mark in the movie. We'll be talking a fair bit about Greg throughout this episode, but I will say right now, Disaster Artist, I think it's a really fun time.
It's a really good book.
He co-wrote it with like an author.
Yeah, who writes video game scripts too. Like he's like a journalist. I forget the other author's name.
But it's a really grabby book. Like if you read pretty quickly, you can get through it in like 3 to 4 hours.
So the main like backstory for Wiseau that we have sort of comes from this Disaster Artist, but it doesn't fill in every single blank, and there is still like guesswork that's happening within the text itself. Yeah. So Wiseau finds himself in the Bay Area after coming from somewhere.
Probably actually New Orleans. From what people have been able to sort of reconstruct, some of this is from the documentation that was obtained by the folks who made the documentary, A Room Full of Spoons. Right. Some of it comes from the legal action that Wiseau took against that movie to keep it from getting released, which he has successfully managed to do for like 10 years now.
Right.
And some like diligent Redditors. It seems as though Tommy Wiseau started in Poland, moved to Berlin for a little bit, moved to France for a little bit, and then moved in with an uncle and aunt in New Orleans, and then made his way to, San Francisco.
Yeah.
When any of these things happened, I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, it's all still very much a mystery. And I do think
he had to take boxes full of soil from his hometown everywhere that he went. That's a joke about Dracula.
Oh, right.
He took a voyage on the Demeter.
He did.
The last one.
Okay, guys. No, that movie's so good.
It's
end of story.
Wait,
that
really?
movie's really good. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's from the director.
Oh.
It's from the director of Troll Hunter, and it was very unfairly treated. That is also like my favorite chapter of Dracula because it's like 1 page long. It's brilliant. Anyway,
All right.
He finds himself in the Bay Area, and according to Sestero's book, he starts selling things as a street vendor on Fisherman's Wharf.
Just knickknacks, basically.
Yes, and he was dubbed the Birdman by the locals there because he sold little wind-up birds.
Oh.
He had some real chronicles
ceiling.
about him, some real wind-up bird chronicles about it.
They would watch you
apologize.
masturbate.
I jumped on your joke, but I was going to say they put it on the ceiling, and so it watched them
That's a much
masturbate.
better joke. Let's do that.
Well, we've done both now, and we've done both in the least optimal way possible.
Okay, go with me. It's Murakami looking down through watching you masturbate. Okay, great.
Haruki Murakami is watching you masturbate. Got
Yes,
it.
yeah. It's like Spider-Man has made you gay. Like it just replaced that, but with Murakami like watching you masturbate through the anyway.
Spider-Man has made you gay?
Oh, is that another internet thing?
I know nothing.
I don't think I know that one either.
AJ's too normy for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I encountered all the normie memes, but he's nicknamed the Birdman, and actually he changes his last name to reflect that nickname.
Okay.
It is a portmanteau of his last name, which Brian, you will say once again,
Vichorkevich.
combined with the French word for bird, which is Wiseau. So he becomes Tommy Wiseau.
Well, and I feel like also the Birdman in San Francisco thing. Of course, there was the famous Birdman of Alcatraz,
Right.
who later became a lawyer, and Stephen Colbert was his boss, and he had an eye patch.
And then he also loved shrinking things.
This is a Harvey Birdman attorney at law
Attorney
joke.
law! But it was briefly a reference to
The Birdman
the
of Alcatraz.
brutal killer.
Here's the thing. You got to track the references because they're gone really quick. So you got
Folks,
to
it's going to be this kind of episode.
get a big net to catch that bird.
So feel free to, take notes
I'm
as you go
shrinking
along.
the net. I'm going to shrink it.
No!
Going to make it very small.
No.
But yes, now we have the man known as Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah.
And somehow he apparently managed to acquire some land in San Francisco and thereby become independently wealthy.
Some
Yeah.
warehouses specifically.
I'm assuming this has something to do with his uncle. The Redditor who dug up this information found like when the uncle and aunt emigrated, which was 1956. So they had been in the U.S. for some time, and maybe they owned some. I don't know anything else about the uncle and aunt, but like maybe they had some capital they were able to get him. But like, yeah, you look at this man and you're like, what we find out later, this guy is pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
Yes.
How?
Right.
How does this happen?
It doesn't add up. Like,
At all.
even reading The Disaster Artist with what Greg has sketched out based on the best of his understanding, it still doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, when I first watched this movie, which was, surprise listeners, with Josh in college with all of our theater friends
That's right.
and also Emery,
That's right.
who was not a theater person nor a Calvin student, I think, at that point.
No, but was my roommate for a time.
Yes, it's a roommate movie.
It 100%
really
is. That's how I watch
It really
100%.
is.
And we had a great time, and we were theorizing, like, how did this get made? Of course, we talked about the famous budget of this movie, which is way higher than you'd expect.
$6 million. Yeah.
$6 million. That's as much as the government spent to rebuild an entire person, making him better than he was before, stronger, perhaps even faster.
My God.
And one of the theories that went around at that time was that he was a mercenary. It was that he was like aiding guerrillas in horrible.
Yeah, like Bosnia or something.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
I don't think so
No.
either. He's not stealthy enough.
No, he would just be bumping into
He's just like
everything.
lumbering around.
Yeah.
He'd be shot pretty quick if he was
I
a
mean,
mercenary.
The man is he's just a walking mystery. He starts speaking and you want to know everything. You want to know
Yeah.
if that hair is real.
Which is
Right?
Yes.
a big thing that Greg Sestero talks about in The Disaster Artist. Is just
Yeah.
there's just something so bizarrely compelling about this man. Like, the whole reason he even got to know him in the first place was that they were in an acting class together.
Yes.
And it was like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, he's
who would
doing
just
Streetcar.
He would go up and just butcher Shakespeare, butcher Streetcar, butcher anything he touched. And the teacher would be like trying to give him notes and he would be like, no, no matter what it was.
I don't agree with those notes. What do you mean you don't agree? Because he would like do the Stella bit. Like he would do Brando's monologue because he really admires Marlon Brando.
And James Dean,
And
which are the wrong people for him to admire. Typing is a real thing in acting.
Yes.
He should be admiring Bela Lugosi.
Right? Yes. Or, I mean, honestly, Vincent Price, I think, would have been a great basis for him. But, like, he would just scream Stella and just, like, throw furniture haphazardly. It's the final scene from this movie, but on a stage. And, again, Sestero leans in and is just like, I have to know everything there is to know about this guy. And they strike up this friendship. And while this is happening, Tommy Wiseau watches a movie called The Talented Mr. Ripley in 2001. It came out in 1999, but he had watched it a couple years later. And he's like, I need to write this into a play. So he writes a play called The Room,
which has nothing to do with The Talented Mr. Ripley, except for the level of quality.
It has
shots
fired, I guess.
God.
No, maybe
Matt
I'm saying
Damon
The Room
catching
is really
strays?
good. Maybe that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm just saying shit. I just put words out there and hope people react to them.
But yeah, we've
That's
got
just Tommy Wiseau.
We've got a quote here, and I think AJ, you found this, right? This quote from Entertainment Weekly.
Yes.
So the question that the reporter asked was, what inspired you to write the film in the first place?
Okay, and here is Wiseau's response. I'm not going to do the voice for this whole thing because it is too long a quote, but I decided to write a script first. Originally, it was supposed to be a play presented in a theater. I've been in many different relationships. I studied acting for many, many years, and I say, let me write a script and try to make a movie. That's when everything starts, you know? I take a lot of stuff from real life, as well as from my own experiences. The Room, I always say, is a red flag for young people. Have fun, but at the same time, the message behind it, what not to do in the real world, you know? Relationships between three people, as a friend, it's okay, but then you go extra miles. It's not good.
Yeah, it becomes a crowd.
And that, by the way, the writer of that, Clark Collis, has covered The Room for a very long time.
Yes.
If you go take a look at his other stuff, he's got some good writing about it.
I think Entertainment Weekly was also the publication that referred to him as the Orson Welles of crap. just a great...
Tommy Wiseau is.
Yes.
Well, he's trying to make Citizen Kane, I think, especially in some in the trashing the room scene.
Yeah.
I think that's a direct reference to Kane.
Yeah, so he contradicts himself in another interview to the AV Club, and he's talking to Steve Heisler, who also interviews Tommy Wiseau and writes about The Room.
This interview, by the way, is from 2009, so like right when The Room was really blowing up.
He told him this: the film is based on a novel, The Room, and I already have the book long time ago. And I say I condense everything to the script form. But anyway, this is a lot of factors that contribute to that. You look at today's society, and you look at society 100 years ago, human behavior did not change. Environment did change, but not human behavior. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
So he says in one place, started as a play.
Right.
Says in another place, the book came first, then the play. It's worth saying he was trying to get the book published at the time he did this second interview.
What, 540 pages of it?
Yes.
Yes. And he said that the publisher was trying to get him down to 400 pages. And I'm like, there's no publisher.
No.
No, not at all.
That's a thing you have told yourself.
There might not even be 540 pages.
No, but I personally choose to believe that this started as a novel because that is yet another thing that makes this movie exactly like Disco Elysium.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What are the other things?
Not going to tell you.
Okay. God damn it, I failed.
Tommy Wiseau.
Sometimes
that was a white check too.
Sometimes let man keep his secrets. Everybody always the same as they were, but sometimes you need lesson. And lesson needs to come from heart. And heart only work if you don't know all the secrets.
Tommy Wiseau, secretly Estonian.
I would write him into Disco too.
As we've said, we've got Greg Sestero. It'd be fair to say that Tommy develops a strangely attached relationship to Greg.
Yeah.
Yes, there seem to be a lot of feelings happening here.
It should be worth noting that Greg has had a little bit of a career by the time he met Tommy.
Right. He's done the soaps, right?
He hadn't. I don't think that was until after they both came down to LA.
Oh.
But he was modeling.
Oh,
And
sure.
he had modeled in like Paris and stuff like that. Greg Sestero is like a handsome looking guy.
Yep.
He's like the perfect look for a guy who does soap operas.
And he was even able to get a little bit of a way into the industry as an actor because he had the look.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Tommy sees that this guy has something that can work in the industry. And Tommy has, it turns out, quite a bit of money and a lot of ego.
So many possible.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.